Pardon the interruption, but I'm Frank Isola. Hey, Tony, a NASA orbiter spotted an avalanche on Mars.
Tony Kornheiser. I sure hope nothing's sliding around Uranus. And that's funny. Like, the only person in the world who doesn't think these Uranus jokes funny is Mike. He's the only one.
What does he know?
But these are actually funny jokes. For people who don't understand this, we go through about 5 or 6 lines before we pick one, and that's the best one every time it's out there, the Uranus joke. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. It's a spa day for Wilbon, so I am joined by our great friend from The Athletic, Mr. Frank Isola.
Still here.
And we begin today with 2 major signings in the NFL. Ezekiel Elliott, as expected, signed a 6-year, $90 million contract with the Cowboys with $50 million guaranteed. To illustrate the difference between running back and quarterback, Jared Goff signed a $134 million contract with the Rams with a whopping $110 million guaranteed, the most ever. Frank, are the Rams smart to tie up all that money in Goff?
Yeah, well, I guess they are. I mean, he has won 24 games the last 2 years. Only Tom Brady, Drew Brees have won that many games. What I find interesting is you go back to his first year, he's 0-7. And in L.A., everyone is thinking, I think the Rams made a huge mistake. They never should have drafted this guy. He's going to be a bust. Think about where he is now. And you mentioned the guaranteed money. Tell your kids, your grandkids, play quarterback. Don't be a running back. So $110 million.
So
guaranteed.
let me go back to what you're alluding to, because the coach that year was Jeff Fisher.
Yes.
Jeff Fisher is a defensive guy. He didn't know what to do with Goff, and Goff looked terrible. Sean McVay comes in. He's an offensive guy, and people think he's a young genius. I don't personally think Goff so far is worth that kind of money. I don't think Carson Wentz so far is worth the kind of money he signed for. But I can't imagine that the Rams didn't go to McVay and ask the following question. Do you love this guy?
Yes.
And of course, he probably said, yes, I love this guy, because in the 2 years after Jeff Fisher, he got Jared Goff to 60 touchdowns and 19 interceptions. So if you have a combination of coach and quarterback, as we've seen in New England, and they think it works, then you give them the money.
And don't you think that's what it is? Because you look at all these franchises that are trying to find a quarterback.
Have to have
the Miami Dolphins. Arizona hopes that they have one now.
Have to have it.
And they have gone to a Super Bowl with Jared Goff,
which
is pretty good. Now, in the Super Bowl, he's 19 for 38. He did have an interception in his 3 playoff games. He only has thrown for 1 touchdown. The playoff success is there. He's only 24.
He's a kid. What are you betting on with Carson Wentz? That he's a kid. You identify somebody young, under the age of, say, 28, and you say, can we roll with this guy for 5 or 6 years? I assume Dak Prescott is going to walk into Jerry Jones and say, look what I've done. Give me this money.
And don't you think, too, with Jared Goff, when you think about that, he's only 24 years old, and what McVay has done, there was this feeling out there that, well, Sean McVay can do this with any quarterback. Maybe Goff, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is, he could take a young guy and turn him into this. But you know what? I think you're right. I think Sean McVay said, this is my guy. This is the guy I want.
That's what you feel happened there. I was
$110 million is a lot.
Lot.
All right, Antonio Brown revealed via Instagram a letter he received from Oakland Raiders general manager Mike Mayock informing Brown that he had been fined $54,000 for missing practice while he was still searching for a helmet. We all remember that. And for skipping a walkthrough before a preseason game in Winnipeg. Brown's response was, quote, everyone got to pay this year. Tony, Brown is a great player. He's also a royal pain in the neck. If you're running the Browns, would you have fined him this much money?
I'm running the Raiders.
The Raiders,
I'm running the Raiders. Some people would run Brown out.
Exactly.
I admit now that I'm getting a little tired of Antonio Brown. But to answer the specific question, I wouldn't have fined him.
Why not?
Antonio Brown, the last time we saw him make a public statement, basically put his arms around John Gruden and the Raiders and thanked them for understanding what he had been going through and for publicly supporting him. Now, I don't know why you do this. I don't know why you step on that. Antonio Brown is a diva wide receiver.
Yes.
If you didn't know that for certain when you signed him, you knew it within a week of his reporting. He pays attention to no rules. He thinks himself above the law on all levels. He said publicly he liked you. Now he put this out. The Raiders didn't.
Do you think this is John Gruden, Mike Mayock playing good cop, bad cop? Because it was Mike Mayock who wrote the letter. What I love about the letter too, it said, "Dear Antonio." Then he's laying out everything that happened. This is why you're being fined. If you do it again, we could possibly suspend you. I think they're doing the right thing, because here's the thing about the Oakland Raiders. commitment to excellence. The Oakland Raiders haven't been relevant since basically the 80s and the 90s. I get it. They went to the Super Bowl in 2002. They lost. They've had one winning season. They've had one winning season. So everyone looks at the uniform. They think it's great. It's been a nothing franchise. Mike Mayock is there. John Gruden, they're trying to establish something, and they're saying, you know what? If we're going to have the right kind of culture, we can't have Antonio Brown acting this way. I think they did the right thing.
So this is interesting that you say it's good cop, bad cop with Mayock and Gruden. I don't think Antonio Brown discriminates between people. I think he looks at they're coming at me. When Mike Mayock said out loud a couple of weeks ago, he's either all in or all out. What I think should have been said is the Raiders are either all in or all out with Antonio Brown. I don't think this is
But, Tony,
good.
you have the helmet thing, and then he's missing a walkthrough.
I know.
Before the game. So what do you think the rest of the players on the team are thinking? Are there different rules for everybody? I think they did the right thing by laying down
Well,
the
there
law
are different rules for Antonio Brown in Antonio Brown's mind. And well, I mean, we're going to see. I think he'll have a good season, but I don't. If the question was, would I would have done this, I wouldn't have done this.
Do you think the Pittsburgh Steelers know what they're doing?
They're laughing.
Exactly.
They're laughing at the moment.
And they
Roger Federer lost at the U.S. Open last night to Grigor Dimitrov, unseeded and ranked number 78 in the world. This is the second straight year that Federer has lost in the U.S. Open to a player ranked outside the top 50. It's the third straight 5-set match that Federer has lost. Frank, was this Federer's last great chance, and are you calling it for Federer?
You know what? I think at the Open, it might be. He hasn't won since 2008. He's only been to one final the last 10 years. And you wonder, too, it's the end of the season, and last night in the fifth set, his back, or late in the fourth set, his back starts acting up. So if you wonder if it gets this late in the year, he just can't do it, especially you go later in the tournament, and then you're playing a 5-setter. He was up 2-1 to a guy that he always beats.
0-7 against him. 0-7.
And he had won 16 of 18 sets. I think it's about wearing down. I'm not going to say he can't win another major. I think he can get that 21st, but I think it would have to happen at either Australian Open or Wimbledon.
So I'm very leery about this whole topic because some years back, let me get the notes, 2002, I sat here and I said, Pete Sampras is done. Yeah. He's done. And then he won the U.S. Open. And he was only 31 at that time. And that, for me, is the big difference. 38 is old. Sometimes too old is actually too old. Federer should have won Wimbledon.
That's right.
Should have beaten Djokovic, had the opportunity to beat Djokovic. If he beats Djokovic there, we don't have to hear this stuff about how Djokovic is better than Roger Federer. He's up to 21. Djokovic is one behind where he is now. And that talk is over forever because Federer retires and the gap is still there. By not winning that, I got the sense that maybe that was his last best shot. If you're a man tennis player rather, in a major, you can go 5 sets and you got to go 7 matches. 30, what did Shaq say? 39 ain't 29, bro.
No.
I mean, 38's old. The oldest guy ever to win a major is Ken Rosewall at 37.
Yeah.
So.
Well, but Federer, we were here on Monday after Wimbledon talking about it. He had 2 match points on his serve.
Let him go.
All he needed was one big serve.
Let him go.
And he wins.
Yeah.
I still think he could win the Australian. I think he could win Wimbledon. By the way, Rafael Nadal and Serena Williams, this is your tournament now to win for both of them.
100%. 100%.
All right, just a few miles from here, Tony's 2 favorite teams, the Mets and the Nationals, made history last night. A game that began with Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer on the mound, ended with Kurt Suzuki's 3-run homer, capping the largest ninth-inning comeback in franchise history. The Mets, they invented a new way to lose. Up 6 runs in the ninth, only to have their bullpen give up 7 in the bottom of the inning. It's an incredible win for the Nats, but Tony, was it meaningful?
So I rooted for the Mets as a child, and I root for the Nationals now. I even got that 1969 replica jacket and all of that. Yeah, and all of that.
Put that on eBay. You could make a little money.
No, I want it. I don't want to make money. I want to keep it. I bailed on this game last night. Around the 7th inning, I was wandering around the dial because I didn't think the Nats were going to win, especially when it got to 5-2. I just didn't think they were going to win. And I landed on Broadcast News, which is a great movie. We had talked about it yesterday. Amazingly, it was on TV last night, and I watched that all the way through. So I went to sleep thinking and honestly believing this. This is 2 losses in a row to the Mets. I think the wild card may disappear because of the Nats' schedule in September, which is really hard, and these losses to the Mets. I woke up about 4:30 and I looked at my phone. And now I got like 93 texts from people. Can you believe this?
It's
I had no idea that this happened.
Well, think about this. Here are the numbers. The Mets franchise history, 806-0 when leading by 6 or more runs in the ninth inning. The Nationals, 0 and 775 when trailing by 6.
It's amazing.
But here's
it's
the
amazing.
thing. Seth Lugo pitches the 8th inning for the Mets.
Pitching
1, 2,
okay.
3. So what does Mickey Callaway do? Of course, everything was going too well. You then start going with other relievers. After the game, he says, we had a 6-run lead. Major league pitchers have got to be able to hold that. Hang on a second. Your bullpen has blown 25 saves this year. Why do you say that when it's been proven otherwise? You had a chance to win.
All year long, I've looked at the Nats bullpen in total disbelief, thinking it's the worst thing I've ever seen. The Mets is actually worse than the Nats.
Admit this, though. When the calendar gets to September and you win games like that,
big deal.
There's something special about
No, and I understand that. The best thing that happened to the Nats last night, actually, is that there's a chance that Ryan Zimmerman has emerged and has been found. He missed over 100 games this year. Last 2 times at bat, he's banged it. And
25 blown saves for the Mets this year. Well, 4 shy of a team record.
The Nats don't have as many as that. They must. They
That's
must.
Worse.
Yesterday at the Basketball World Cup, Brazil beat Greece. In that game, 39-year-old Alex Garcia held the current NBA MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo, to 13 points, and he fouled him out of the game. Alex Garcia, for those of you who don't know him, like me, is 6'4". After the game, Brazilian coach Alex Petrovic said, quote, "That's why this sport is wonderful. You have a guy who won MVP. He's 23 years old, and who stops him tonight? The guy who is 40 years old and kicks his ass." His words, unquote. Frank, are you okay with this trash talk about the MVP?
I think it's great, and I think it's right what he said. By the way, how about Anderson Varejao? Hasn't been in the league for 2 years, 22 points and 9 rebounds. But if you're Giannis, you're the MVP of the NBA. You are the best player in this tournament. You're scoring 13 points against a bunch of run-of-the-mill players from Brazil. What I love when you get to the international level, and you know this from covering players like Oscar Schmidt, you have the coach from Serbia has already come out and said before the tournament began, if we play the U.S., may God help them.
Yeah.
So they don't care about being politically correct or insulting people. I love what the Brazilian coach said, just like I love what the coach of Serbia said.
I'm happy that the Brazilian coach said this because he can say this.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to play Greece again. And by the way, it's true what he said. What does he care? And it's true. The most amazing statistic to me, if I have this right, is Antetokounmpo got 7 shots. Who's coaching that team? All right? Who's coaching the Greek team that you have this guy and he only gets 7? I don't know if Greece and Brazil are any good. Years ago, you mentioned Oscar Schmidt. He was a great player. This is 30, 35 years ago. He once scored, I think, 46 in the Pan Am Games and beat the United States. Beat the United States. And they were great to watch at that point. But you can't. Antetokounmpo can't get 7 shots, right?
He's got to score more than 13.
Crazy.
By the way, the way things are set up now, very good chance, round of 16, USA, Greece. Who do you think Mike Budenholzer, the head coach of Milwaukee, is rooting for? He wants Giannis out. Get him back home.
Exactly, right, so we can start practicing. Let's take a break, but coming up, we're just 26 hours and 37 minutes away from the NFL opener. Should we expect more out of the Packers offense or the Bears defense?
And who would you rather watch on Sunday? Baker Mayfield or Kyler Murray?
Antetokounmpo is a great player.
Yes.
But 7 shots is a joke. I'm designing offense for the guy. Wilbon took an extra day off so he didn't have to face me in toss-up. Good luck. Frank, what's first?
Toss-up, they play tomorrow. Which do you feel more optimistic about, the Packers offense or the Bears defense?
I'm sorry Wilbon is not here to hear me say I feel more optimistic about the Packers offense. I think that, and I know that Aaron Rodgers hasn't thrown a touchdown pass in Chicago, not any, since week 1 of 2015. I think he will. I think for the first time in years, there's actual pressure on Aaron Rodgers. He's got a new coach. That coach has said he can audible if he wants to audible. I think that he will respond to that. And I also think that the defensive coach of the Bears, Vic Fangio, when he left, I think it's going to take a few games to figure this out. So I'm going to go with the Packers.
And Fangio, he was a guy that liked to disguise his coverages. Chuck Pagano's the new defensive coordinator. He's going to try to get after the quarterback. And you look at Khalil Mack, who they have. How about in the 2 games last year against the Packers? 3.5 sacks, a forced fumble, a pick 6. They kind of have Aaron Rodgers' number.
So is that what you think?
I think it's the defense and the kicking game as well for the Bears.
They have no kicking game. They don't have a kicker. They never have a kicker. Next.
Toss-up, who are you more interested in watching this weekend, Baker Mayfield or Kyler Murray?
I love Baker Mayfield. I loved him in college. I was surprised when he was the overall #1 pick, and I felt badly that he had to go to the god-awful Browns, where their coach at the time of the draft was, I believe, 1-31. But with all that said, the answer is obviously Kyler Murray. I mean, this is his first game in the NFL. He could have been a baseball player by this time. He's got the new coach in Kingsbury. All the offense is geared around him. They're playing Detroit, which I assume would be pretty good defensively because Matt Patricia's a defensive guy. Yeah, I mean, if I had to pick, I would pick watching Kyler Murray.
Isn't it amazing, too, about Murray? At this time last year, we all thought, all right, he's going to play college football. Then in February, he's going to go to spring training.
That's right.
With the Oakland A's. He's going to be on a bus playing single-A baseball.
Sure.
The fact that he's a #1 overall pick and he's starting in the NFL this weekend is amazing. But for me, it's Baker Mayfield.
Really?
Because everything that surrounds the Cleveland Browns, they are the sexy team that everyone is kind of picking. But they, their defense is terrific. But Odell Beckham, unbelievable player. But you wonder how that dynamic's all going to work. Now they're playing as the favorite, not kind of as the underdog Cleveland Browns.
What? I get all that, but I feel you could pick them up later in the year and that the first game would be Kyler Murray. Next.
Toss-up, they both homered last night. Who would you rather see win the home run crown, Mike Trout or Pete Alonso?
Alonso not only homered last night, he homered today against the Nats. Is that 45 for him? He's a terrific player. Happy to see him doing very well. The answer for me is Mike Trout. Mike Trout has never won the American League home run crown. So I'd like to see him win it. And my reasoning is the Angels never make the playoffs. We don't get to see this guy in October. And in a couple of years, even though we believe he's the best player in baseball, I think the luster will go off. I think people will start to sort of abandon him because they don't get to see him. So to have a particular title, he'd be at least able to say, I got this.
He's 28 years old. He could win his 3rd AL MVP, which is impressive. But here's the thing. How does he already have his career high in home runs? When it's, it's early September, and Pete Alonso has already broken the rookie record for the Mets, which was 26 by Darryl.
He could get Darren Judge.
Which was Darryl Strawberry, and then the team record is 41 by Todd Hundley.
He's
probably going to get 50. How about the Mets, our team, have never had a guy hit 50 home runs?
I'm surprised by that. I think there was something a couple of years ago when Mike Moustakas was on Kansas City, and he got the record. It was, I think, in the high 30s or something crazy. Next.
Last one, toss-up. Who you got on Saturday? Number 12, Texas A&M, or number 1, Clemson?
I got Clemson.
Yeah.
I know they played last year at A&M. I know it was a 2-point game. I know it was the closest game Clemson played all year. Clemson's the #1 team in the country. They're playing at home. Even if you took A&M and the 17.5 points, I don't know how you could take A&M outright. I don't know how you do that. I got Clemson.
How about the offensive lineman for Texas A&M, Jared Hocker? He said there will be an upset. Jimbo Fisher, not too crazy.
Yeah, but what do you want him to say? You want to say we're going to lose?
Here's the thing about Clemson. They're playing home, #1. Next week, they're going to play Syracuse. So to me, this is going to be the big,
These are the 2 games.
This is going to be the big 8 days for them. But Trevor Lawrence didn't even play that well against Georgia Tech, and they still rolled. In fact,
they won by 38.
His best play of the game was the tackle that he made. But Etienne, the running back, had over 200 yards. What Dabo Swinney has done.
They're really good.
It's one of the most remarkable college jobs. Basically turn it into a power.
You're going to have to beat them to get me to say that I think you can beat them.
Exactly.
That's it. No offense, Frank. You were easy work. Let's take one last break, but still to come. Is Team USA vulnerable tomorrow morning without Jason Tatum?
And a freak base hit for Paul DeYoung. Wait till you see this one.
Are these games on television? The
ESPN
World Cup games?
Plus.
I don't know, but that's
I think the medal round.
Oh, okay. So I'll wait. Happy time, people. Happy 70th birthday, Tom Watson. The Kansas City native won 8 majors, including 5 British Opens. His most famous shot came in the 1982 U.S. Open at Pebble Beach, when he chipped in on 17 and beat Jack Nicklaus. Watson should have become the oldest player to ever win a major at the 2009 British Open at Turnberry when he was almost 60 years old. But he overcooked an 8-iron on the 18th hole. He eventually lost in a playoff to Stuart Sink.
You know, like Tiger Woods, he went to Stanford. Of course, he's on the golf team. He was on the table tennis team as well.
Is that right?
Yes.
Wow.
I could make the table tennis.
Didn't know that. Happy anniversary, Steve Sarkisian. On this day 7 years ago, the then Washington coach brought a live tiger to practice to prepare his team for a road game at LSU, where they used to have their school mascot, a Bengal tiger, in a cage on the sideline. And here's how well that worked. LSU won 41-3. Sarkisian has since bounced around at USC, the Atlanta Falcons, and at Alabama, where he's currently the offensive coordinator.
Great offensive coordinator. Better tiger, the LSU Bengal or the Jackson State
Jackson
mascot?
State, that was awful. Happy trails to a foul ball for Paul DeYoung. The Cardinals shortstop hit a ball 10 feet in foul territory last night and then ran to first as he watched that ball crazily curl back into fair territory. That was like a pool shot. DeYoung was paying attention. San Francisco's first baseman, Brandon Belt, wasn't. And DeYoung reached first base safely on one of the oddest hits we have ever seen. In pool, this is called a massé shot.
I like that. This is why we like baseball so much, because things that happen in Little League actually happen in the Major Leagues. Because you're telling Little League players, you got to get the ball.
I've never seen that.
It's amazing.
I've never seen that. One error, Jared Goff has 2 career playoff TD passes, not one. And one update, the Mets bounced back today to beat the Nats 8-4. Let's go to the big finish. Jason Tatum is out for 2 games. Will that hurt Team USA against Japan tomorrow morning?
No, but if they play Giannis Antetokounmpo in Greece, it could hurt them. He could be used to defend him. The Chargers reportedly passed on trading Melvin Gordon to the Eagles for Jordan Howard and a pick. Is that a good call?
If you're the Chargers, you wait for all the bids to come in, and then you decide. That trade is still on the table. Edwin Encarnacion homered in his first game back from the injured list. Big deal?
Yeah, he's a big bat for the Yankees, but the issue with the Yankees is going to be pitching come playoff time, especially starting pitching. The Braves have won 6 straight. Is that significant?
They're a really good team. I understand that the Dodgers have sucked all the air out of the National League because they've been great.
Yep.
The Braves are really good, so yeah, you're supposed to be winning now. Last one, Rafael Nadal takes on Diego Schwartzman tonight. Are you smelling another upset?
No, I'm not, but here's the thing. How about this? European tennis players have won the last 39 majors. Schwartzman from Argentina maybe can stop it. 39 in a row.
That's tremendous.
It's incredible,
really?
right?
We're out of time. Trying to do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
And I'm Frank Isola. Michael Wilbon back tomorrow. You can get the PTI podcast and on the ESPN app or Apple Podcast.
Dr. Misaki Kaguchi, shout out. I don't think she watches, but maybe.